Welcome. You are listening and watching KMMU.org. That is Main Street Media, Utah. And this is the Liberty Mom Show. Liberty Moms are the original secretaries of defense. We are the real defenders of the home front. And we are there when it comes to defending our families and our communities. I'm your host, Dalane England, and I am very pleased to have another Liberty Mom as my guest today. Her name is Representative Nicholeen Peck. She has recently been the head of Worldwide Women. She has been on the front lines. She is newly elected as a Utah House of Representative, and she is truly the definition of a Liberty Mom. Nicholeen, welcome so much to our show. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Dalane. I'm happy to be here.
I hope that you can tell I'm smiling at you. I'm sorry. I don't know what. I cannot get my camera to work, so I apologize. But I'm glad your camera works because you look amazingly fresh, even though we're more than halfway through the session. And maybe that's why, because it is exciting to kind of be like we're on this. But you know what? I think it's because you have so many really awesome bills, and they are actually making such traction. They are really, you're killing it, man. They're getting passed. It is exciting. So I would like to start with HB 209. That is the homeschool bill. This is a long time coming. This is a very important bill, I feel, for every homeschool parent or potential homeschool parent, and frankly, for every person who lives in the state of Utah, because it restores the presumption of innocence. And it was what we had in code right now. What we have in code until this gets passed is disgusting, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard because, we all love children. We want to protect children. And even the people who are against this bill, they want to protect children too. So everyone has the same goal in mind. Let's protect children. But somebody had an idea a couple of years ago. It was in 2023 that there was an idea that came to be. Someone was trying to protect children in their own family. They went to their legislator. They said, I've got a divorce situation and this other person is an abuser. And so like they're being investigated for abuse, or I don't know if they really were convicted or what, but there was an abuse situation. And the one that was abusing wanted to, or that they thought was abusing, wanted to homeschool the children. I don't know the full details of the case, but they went to their representative and I think they said, and I can't get this handled. And so the representative said, okay, well, maybe we can just run a little bill that just says that if you homeschool your children, you can't be a child abuser. And truthfully, I have to say that when the bill happened 2 years ago, I really admired the sponsor of the bill. Great, freedom-loving legislator. I mean, honestly, just a brave soul. And I was like, well, this can't be too bad, right? And I was looking at it and kind of looked at the language. And he even said, will you please look at the language? Like he even had me check it. I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't have any teeth. I mean, it's basically just a statement. No one can do anything because of this. And so then I thought at the time, well, why not go on record as homeschoolers saying, yeah, we're not abusers. Why not? And so I actually spoke in favor of that legislation. I did. 2 years ago, I spoke in favor because I was like, well, it can't do anything to anyone. Like there's no action steps here. There's nothing that anyone has to do. It's just a little simple statement. And and I thought, well, it's
if you're abusing your children, you really shouldn't have them not only during school hours, you really shouldn't have them at night either, is my thought. It's like, well, if they're child abusers, why do we want them in the home at all? Like,
and child abuse is like a felony too, a lot of the time. And so if you're a felon, you wouldn't even have your children,
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I only abuse my children during school hours. When they're at night, I'm not really a child abuser. So like, sometimes I have to send them away. I mean, the
whole thing was nonsensical. Okay. Nonsensical.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I spoke for it even. So, what happened was there were 2 districts in the state of Utah that decided to interpret that little statement there that had no action steps as needing an action step. So they said to some of their homeschool parents, we're not going to approve you for homeschool unless, which is kind of a weird concept in and of itself, because it doesn't
It
match our
is.
Constitution, because our
Since
state
we don't need
Constitution says that
Yeah.
parents have a responsibility over the education of their children. So, but they
And
said
public schools are there to support the
Mhm.
stewardship of parents to educate their children. So the schools don't really
Exactly.
have to give parents permission to do what is our natural right.
Well, if you think of it, the reason that they send report cards home and have parent-teacher conferences and
Right.
stuff like that is actually to report to the parents. That's the point.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so, but we've turned it around as if that's the time the parent has to show the teacher something, but that's not really the case. And the whole reason that we have testing is for the same thing. It's
Right.
supposed to be for that. It's not now, but that's what the
Right.
parent gets no information on it whatsoever, but that's really what it was originally, the concept
Designed for.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so it caused problems because these parents were told that they had to turn in like a background check on themselves. So they'd have to pay for it and go get it and everything else. And they're like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. So they called Homeschool Legal Defense and some of their attorneys. And so then these attorneys started, looking into the situation, and they said that language is so vague that I guess they could request that, even though it doesn't say that, because the school districts were like, well, how else are we going to know if they're a child abuser? We got to do a background check. They're like, yeah, they're like, well, it says they can't if they're a child abuser.
It's a child molester.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, all the political school districts
Yeah.
So it's still so crazy. It's a long time.
Yeah. So anyway, basically all it does is removes all that language that's vague and doesn't make any sense to anybody and caused problems, and we just take it back to the way it was. And we have to be very clear to just say it did not save one child from abuse. There was not one instance in all these instances where the school said, "Uh-oh, we found one."
Right.
And this was actually even at the time where a very tragic thing happened.
Yes.
Where there even was a family manipulating by using the term homeschool and saying they were going to homeschool a child, and they actually were abusers. This happened after that law passed, and that little boy wasn't safe.
No, that's right.
And so there's really no, it did no good. It only caused harm. And in the meantime, it labeled all homeschoolers as abusers. So in the end, we have removed that, and then made a few other slight adjustments there just for more convenience for school districts and homeschoolers as they're going through that homeschool process. So that's what that bill does, and it's in the Senate right now. And it's passed Senate committee. It was unanimous in Senate committee, and I am assuming that it's going to be coming out to the floor soon. Honestly, I should just check it. Like, hold on a second.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it could have even happened today. No, it did not.
No,
it did not. It got its second reading today, so in the Senate. So it's still got one more step to go there.
Yeah. So I don't really. You had some crazy opposition by an anti-homeschool group calling themselves a homeschool group, but
there is a group.
Very interesting. But
they're like there's something for concerned home or for responsible home educators, something.
No, well, it was I believe it was homeschooled for the protection of children is more what their focus was.
Well, yeah, but their name is something for responsible home education. Citizens. I think it's Citizens for Responsible Home Education. And basically what it sounds to me like, because a couple of them actually spoke virtually from other states, of course.
Yes, they were all from out of state.
Well, one of them was. The other one said she was from Utah, but I don't know.
Were from out of state, and one said she was from.
So anyway, they said they were like, I was homeschooled and it was bad and I was abused. And
for 2 years.
And what that means, really,
Exactly.
I don't know, because
Mhm.
I'm no judge, and if they were abused, I think that's terribly sad. But there is no data that says that a person's educational choice for their children makes them more of an abuser than not. And so actually there is no proof that homeschoolers are more abusive than others. So for them to jump to that conclusion because they were abused is a little bit too of a simple conclusion to jump to in my mind.
Plus, what they really said is they didn't like homeschool. They really
Which
didn't give
can
any.
happen to
Yeah, it
anyone,
can
because
happen, but
you
they
know
didn't
what?
really
I
give
went to
evidence that they
public
were
school.
abused.
Yeah, I went to public school, and I didn't like it.
I went to public school, and I was molested by my science teacher in 7th grade.
Well, so there you go.
Numerous times.
So
So, I
there's
mean,
just
I
the
just like,
stories are
that's
so
normal to
varied.
me.
We can't make that assumption, right? But this group was
Yeah.
fighting pretty hard against it, but it seems that really was the only group. But they were sending lots of emails. They really were. And they were saying, I'm your
Yeah.
constituent. But then when I would respond to them, well, where do you live? Nothing, And so
Right.
I don't know as if they really were living in the state, because the people that spoke at the meeting were not. So I don't know. But can people hate homeschool? Yes. Can people have a bad experience homeschool? Yes. But could the same thing happen in public school? Yes. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we still need to leave it to parents' choice, because they're the ones with the stewardship over the children. They're the ones who are more entitled to know what is best for the child. And as society, we just can't cross over that line unless we know for sure the child is in danger. To say that homeschool puts them in danger is absolutely not true. So anyway, there we go on that, Bill. And then I've got, so
Okay.
that one's doing well. And I'm pleased at the direction that it's going. There's been a lot of work. There's a lot of legislators who support this. Even the person who put up the original bill in 2023 spoke in favor of it, said, because actually it was him who said, Nicholeen, run a bill, fix it. I'm sorry, I should have never done that.
Right. And even the Democrats voted in favor of it. So I think that really does
Oh,
speak
it's not
to
a partisan issue. I mean,
not partisan.
there's just so many children who are homeschooled now. It's so popular.
Yeah,
I just
it is.
don't think anybody wants to hurt homeschool families, especially after 2020. It's just boomed. Yeah.
Okay, and then we have HB 233, and I don't remember the name of it.
It's called School Curriculum Amendments.
Oh, right.
This one, for some people, this is probably their favorite bill that I'm running. And for others, it's the most shocking bill that I'm running. Yeah. I think I was just having a conversation with, she was a city councilwoman in the state, and just ran into her just tonight. And she said to me, Nicholeen, I had no idea that elective abortion providers were teaching our children in schools. I'm just so shocked. I'm beyond shocked. And so the people are just absolutely shocked. I think they thought there's no way ever in the state of Utah that would happen in our schools.
And it's been happening for decades. I mean, it's been a long time it's been happening.
It's been happening for a while. Now, what people need to know is this is not the majority of schools. Absolutely. It's only in 4 districts where people are actually teaching it. Other districts are getting materials from elective abortion providers, such as Planned Parenthood and stuff. And so there might be resources some places and curriculum some places, but the teachers that are coming from, say, Planned Parenthood are only in 4 districts. And it's not even every school in those districts. With the numbers that even Planned Parenthood put out in their own reports, it is not all the schools in the districts that they're in. So that's good news, because what that tells us is that there are a lot of other programs that are being used across the state, and that people are doing things well across the state, and that it is a very minute percentage of the population that actually decided to call Planned Parenthood. That means this is an easy fix for schools. This is not a hard thing for them to have to fix.
It's not a hard thing, and it's a very important thing, because we
Mhm.
really shouldn't have specific industries in the schools.
Mhm.
Very, they're not really you really couldn't call them unbiased when they're providing
Right.
abortions. So
Right.
that kind of stuff should be done, teaching the truth and teaching from a more of a non, not, I don't, partisan's probably the wrong word, but
It's
a
a
more
bias. It's a
non-biased.
bias. So
Yeah,
you'd
it's
probably say non-biased because elective abortion providers like Planned Parenthood, now I don't want to ever speak for them, of course, but the way that I see their lens or their perspective on teaching of sex topics and things related to the body, which they do, that's what they're teaching is like maturation and sex ed, because they teach in elementary schools and junior high and high schools, and they teach during school and they also teach after school. And I'm not sure, I would imagine the after school classes would not keep within code at all, and I don't know how they're
right.
promoted,
Yeah,
and I don't know, so that's a whole other issue in and of itself. However, I know that that happens for a fact, that they do that. So anyway, these elective abortion providers, their lens is, I can share my body with anyone that I want to share my body with so long as I want to.
right.
And so that's and I mean, maybe to some people that sounds like it makes sense, but that's consent. That's teaching a child to actually engage in sexual activity,
It
which is,
does.
yeah,
And
which is a
children
different.
can't legally
Mhm.
consent.
Well, right. And I'm not saying they're saying the word consent, because I do think that it's likely, okay? I do think that it's likely that there are certain words that they know are not legal to advocate for or to say
Right.
in our code, and that they're not saying those words. But that doesn't mean the concepts aren't being taught, because I've actually seen the materials and I've actually listened to some of the presentation. And I know that there are concepts that are touched upon, or even like spoken but unspoken, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So very crafty way to put the messaging in there without having to say the word, for instance, that is outlawed. So anyway, so and it's multiple things, and it really very concerning to me when I saw that. And I asked them, how did you get to be in Utah schools? And they said, well, that's really easy. We contact every school in the state of Utah every year to ask them if they want us to come and teach in their school, and if they say yes, then we go and we do it. And I was like, whoa, that is branding in front of the
Yep.
children.
Yeah.
That is putting a person in a position of trust that has that actually can get gain from them engaging in sexual activity, because abortion is built on that
It's
you can go
totally
consent
built
to
on
anything, and then
consent
if
and
you don't like the effects, we'll get rid of it for you.
yeah.
And a lot of young people do that. I
And
mean, that's a
we
the
know how well branding works for young minds.
yeah, well, I mean, just the number of young people that are high school age and the number of people that are early college age, who go and get abortions at elective
Yes.
abortion clinics is a large number. And
Sadly.
so that's, I mean, that, so we don't want to be branding them toward making more money off of that age of people, right? So
Exactly.
anyway, so that's what that bill does. It's got some press, and most of the press doesn't want to see my side on that, and doesn't appreciate the child safety component. In fact, I would say that again, we have a safety thing here where it's, child safety stuff, where they are saying, well, we need to teach them, Planned Parenthood needs to teach them, otherwise they won't be safe.
Right.
And that's the type of arguments that I've heard. and if not, they won't know all the information. And some people have said, well, then our children won't know anything. They'll never learn about sex. They'll never, and all the children in the state of Utah, what are we going to do? And I've just said to them, don't worry. Don't even worry, because there's only 6,138 students that were taught by Planned Parenthood in 2023. So you know what that means? All of the other millions of students in the state got a different program, so it's okay.
Right. And they're all surviving it just fine. In fact, probably better. Let's be honest.
They're going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, but you know what?
Right.
Most of the people that called me when I talked to them on the phone, and I can't take every call, of course. So my apologies for anyone who did try to call, but sometimes I have other things going on. But
Right.
but some of the calls that I took from people, and when I was, talking to them about it, when I told them, they're only in 4 districts. They're in Salt Lake District, Granite District. They teach at City Academy, which is which is like a charter school, I think. And then and then at Nebo District. Okay. And it's not every school. A couple of schools in these districts have chosen. And that's it, right? And then I would say to them, well, where do you live? Oh, well, I live in West Jordan. And I would say, well, then your children don't have it anyway, so don't worry. They have something else. And then they'd be like, then you know what they'd say? Well, I know people that live in Salt Lake District and they need that. I'm like, okay. So anyway.
That's awesome. Well, I know people, and and they're, you're not getting it and you're still fine and your kids are okay.
Well, but the thing is that they were convinced they were. So the messaging that went out from Planned Parenthood and through the media and stuff was that, oh no, 80,000 students are not going to get sex ed because we're not doing it. But yet in their own report, they reported that it was only 6,138.
We already know we can't trust Planned Parenthood. So that's why we want to get them out of the schools.
So anyway, there you go on that one.
All right. Then we've got HB 250, and that is the public employee gender specific. So that is a great bill. I find it especially important I am a teacher. I do teach at a private school, so it doesn't really pertain to me, but I do appreciate I have so many friends, of course, and we all have, know people and have children or grandchildren who are, have teachers. Mm-hmm. It is a sincere concern for teachers because this gender ideology is so fluid. Because a child can come to school one day and identify as a different sex, non-binary, new made-up sex, a new thing, and furry. And it is really hard as an educator to try to stay on top of it. And you can just, let's face it, I teach siblings and I have to think real hard and think twice before I say their name because I want to be careful not to call them by their sibling's name because kids don't really like that, even though they love their sibling. And so I have to really think, and it's like, you don't want your entire focus. Like, what did you tell me your gender is today? You want to teach.
Well, that's just so difficult. That's, and really that's shouldn't be the burden on the teacher. One thing I said in committee is I said, my name is Nicholeen. There's only 14 Nicholeens in the world. Well, that was as of a number of years ago. There might be more now, but all the other ones I've ever seen online or anywhere, they're all way younger than me. So my guess is they stole my parents' made up name because my parents mixed their names together. Anyway, so there's 14 Nicholeens in the world. Okay. And when someone looks at that name, they almost always misspell it. I don't even say anything about it anymore. I'm just like, nah. And then, but they also oftentimes will mispronounce it, or they try to remember it and they call me Nicolette instead of Nicholeen because that seems like maybe more of a name they've heard. Right. And so but when I was in school, they would get to the name on the list and they would just stop and pause and look at it as if, okay, what am I going to do with this? And I knew, I'm like, they're to the P's. It's me. I'm like, that's Nicholeen. That's me.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that's how you say that. Okay. But people would make fun of my name. They would like, anything that would rhyme with Nicholeen, they would, and you just go, and you just learn.
You just
can't.
They never heard the name.
Yeah, you can't care, and so and so this is,
you just can't make a big deal out of it. It's life. It's part of growing up.
Yeah, almost everybody faces something like that in their life, and I hope they get to, because it teaches you to get a little bit of a tough skin and to give other people grace too, and a little bit of mercy. So, anyway, so for teachers to have to walk on eggshells, to worry that they're going to offend someone by accidentally saying the wrong thing because they can't keep track of it all, when in good faith they're trying to do their very best by these children and to be honest people too, and all that kind of stuff. It's really just a teacher to appreciate teachers and kind of throw them a bone. And it was teachers who brought this to Representative Jimenez's attention last session, and then I took over for Representative Jimenez. He chose not to run again. And so I ran in his stead, and he asked if I would follow through on this bill, and I said yes. And so that's why I have it. And it's made it through its first committee. And so both that one and HB 233 are going to be coming up for the House floor here in the next, couple of days or so.
Right. Okay, it's a great bill. It's a long time coming. It's a really important bill. And it really is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Kind of just takes the heat off, and it's like, let's all be friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want to be respectful of each other, but none of us
and I really
perfect,
think people are trying to. Like, I don't think there's teachers out there who are going around trying to offend their students. I don't.
I think that they're very rare. I just really don't believe that there are very many. I mean, I can't imagine any of them, but
yeah.
But
the teachers should not have to feel like that they can't make their best effort with their students, and that they don't get a chance to really connect with them because they're always walking on eggshells because they don't know what the name is today. I feel that the teachers need to have a little bit of backing and know they're not going to get in trouble when they're really putting out their best effort.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. Then
I've got HB 359.
One of my okay, so
HB 359 is about drugs. It's about drugs in the schools, and out in Tooele County, I was approached by teachers saying that they know there's a drug problem in their schools, that nobody can do anything about it, and that they are worried about this because they know drug dealers are sending drugs to the school with the students, and they're changing them in the bathrooms because no one gets in trouble for it. And so it's like this loophole because there's this non-judicial track that these children go down now, instead of going in front of a judge when they are caught doing drugs and stuff. And I know that it was done out of the kindness of people's hearts to say, well, we don't want to mark them forever with this. And I don't either. I want them to be able to, get over that hard thing and decide not to do it. But the problem is that we've had people almost die with one hit of something they got in the bathroom. And there's a whole group of students the first week of session came up to the Capitol, and I didn't even know they were coming. There was a guy, he said, "Can I get an appointment with you?" I said, "Yes." He came up there with a whole group of teens that some of them had checked out of school that day and everything. And the whole point of them coming up there that day was to inform me how bad the drug problem was in Tooele, and them telling me I don't go to the bathroom the whole day long because the drugs are so bad. And Representative Peck, can you please do something about the drugs?
That is horrible.
And I looked at them and I said, you know what? You're going to be really happy. I actually already have a bill in progress right now because the teachers told me the same problem. So if I'm hearing it from the teachers and the students unsolicited
Yes.
are
Wow.
coming to tell me about it,
That's a horrible
right,
problem.
the moment I get into office, they decide to set an appointment with me.
Yeah.
That to me is a huge deal.
That is a huge deal. And that's really terrifying. How far has that progressed? Where is it?
It just got assigned to judiciary, I think just today or yesterday. So it's just barely out of rules, but it's moving now. So that's good. I'm guessing it'll be in judiciary probably first of the week. I haven't looked at my
Yeah.
schedule for tomorrow. I
Probably.
hope it's not
Yeah.
tomorrow. It's probably
Yeah.
first of the week. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, that is exciting. We can try
Mhm.
to get that cleaned up. That is very exciting. Okay. Another one of my favorite of your bills. If we can hurry and do this one last bill really quickly,
Okay.
because I know we're out of time. HB 521, trans medical, hugely important bill.
This bill was brought to me by a constituent. So this is most of my bills actually were brought to me by constituents. I think a lot of people know that I'll go to bat for them on family issues and that I'm not afraid to go to bat. I think,
And you did the
some
same.
people, there are some people that worry about backlash. I'm not worried about backlash. I'm like,
No.
that's fine.
No, you've dealt with that.
I'm happy to take a few arrows to protect children and families.
Right.
So anyway, that bill was brought to me by a constituent who happens to work in the insurance industry. And he said, I'm really concerned about something. The taxpayer dollars are paying right now for transgender procedures and surgeries and medications and stuff like that. And I don't know if you know that, Representative, but that is concerning to me that our taxpayer dollars would be going toward that.
Right.
And I went, oh, is this even true? And so I actually had all of the researchers at the Capitol who are in charge of this area of things
Right.
do a full study on this. They did their research. Come to find out, my constituent was absolutely right.
That is unbelievable.
So the state of Utah, as well as other municipalities or school districts or anybody who uses taxpayer dollars to pay for their insurance or who uses tax-funded insurance such as PEHP insurance or something like that, what they have right now is that those people using that insurance are stuck in a catch-22. Okay. So that they have a little checkbox right now that says, well, first off, they're using taxpayer dollars to pay for these procedures. And the only way not to do that would be to check this little box. The municipality or the school district or the police department or whoever it is would have to check this little box that says we don't want to. But if they do check that little box that says that they don't want to, then if there's a lawsuit because somebody's like, well, I want those procedures and you won't do it, then the lawsuit would have to go to that municipality or that school district, or that instead of going to the insurance company, it's deferred then to whoever decided not to pay for it, supposedly. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And so it's a big issue. It's a problem. Puts the insurance companies in a really hard spot too, because they don't probably want to do that to their people who are paying them their premiums, because then if it leads to if their checkbox leads to do you see the problem?
Yes.
I mean,
Just continuous.
Yeah, it's a big issue. It's a big problem.
Big issue. Insurance is already expensive, and this would only make all of our insurance more. And
and so it takes away the municipality in the end does not have a right to choose what,
right.
And it's all taxpayer funded too.
Yeah.
And the taxpayers don't have a right to say, I don't want my tax dollars being used for those types of elective surgeries, or something.
Not paying for my facelift. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. They wouldn't be paying for a tummy. They wouldn't be paying for a liposuction or something on someone, which is an elective procedure. And now I know that there are some people, and I have complete compassion. There are some people that this issue is so dear to their heart and it hits so close to home, and they worry, that this would really affect one of their loved ones. And
it's affecting all their loved ones.
but the thing is this is not, this bill isn't about whether a person can choose to do transgender procedures and surgeries or not.
No, it's not.
Our law is clear on that. If you
Right.
are 18 or older, you can go do whatever you want to do. That's not what this bill is about. This bill is only about who funds it.
Absolutely.
That's all it's about. And when we're talking about using taxpayer dollars,
exactly,
we already have Medicaid expansion, which almost bankrupted our state, which makes it so our state, who is required to have a balanced budget, does not have a lot of money to use like we used to, because we have such a huge bill with Medicaid.
We have a huge expansion. It's been devastating.
And so we already as a state pay for so much medical for so many people. But should the people in the state be required, even if there's 70% of the state that say, I don't want to pay for it, and 30% that say, I do.
Or vice versa. It's not the proper.
Even if it's vice versa, should some people be paying for this? So anyway, that's the question. And I really think, some people will probably try to turn this into a you hate transgender is real kind of a thing.
Yeah,
but it actually is not that at all.
No.
This bill, because I have some dear friends who are LGBT and who, I mean, people I love dearly, like in family. I mean, they're dearly, dearly love them. But that doesn't mean, as a public servant, that I can in good conscience say that the government should pay for procedures that are elective like that. So there's all kinds of other things a person can do. They can pay for it themselves. They can get different insurance that's not government insurance. They can get a job that has insurance that will pay for it. They can, there's other things that they can do. And so
like the rest of us, like all the rest of us.
Yeah, it's not, you don't have to have government insurance if you're going to do those types of procedures. So.
Right. Well, Nicholeen, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. It's so fun talking to you, and I am very excited about the bills that you are sponsoring. And we have a lot of really good bills, I feel, this year. It feels like we have a lot of really good bills, and they're making traction. They're getting through. But you can be sure we are going to stay on top of these bills and follow them through and help support them through to the end. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your service as a representative, and thank you for sponsoring these, and really appreciate your time. And please remember, everyone, that you are the guardian of your liberty. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a good one. Thank you.